Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Women's Wisdom. Women's Wisdom is brought to you by your host, me, Nicole Cartney, and through these series, you will hear from some incredible women in their industry who are not only making an impact in their world, but they are living their ultimate life. Today, I'm going to be speaking with a really great friend of mine who's doing some incredible work in the world. We're going to take you behind the scenes of her life, her story, and also uncover some juiciness. Get ready because we have some secret gifts to reveal. Without further ado, let me introduce you to my beautiful friend, Shani. Shani Lee is an embodiment and relationship coach and a single mother of two beautiful children. She has spent the last 3 years of her life dedicating to her internal growth, from just wanting to become more present, fulfilled mother, to having the most intense cosmic orgasms. Years of her life in the sex industry as an exotic dancer, where she learned the depths of what it meant to fully embrace her goddess within. And once she learned and harnessed this inner goddess, she finally found the fulfillment in her life she had been searching for. In this lifetime, all she wishes is that all women get to do the same and live a long life of true pleasure, love, and liberation. Welcome, Shani. So good to have you here.
So good to be here. That's so exciting.
I love just when I read your bio, your story, I'm like, this is so juicy. I cannot wait to speak to you about all of this.
I know. I was listening to it and I'm like, oh my God, it feels so good.
So good. Yeah. So good. So obviously we've also been doing some personal work together, like we've been doing masterminds. We kind of know what each other have been going through the last few years. So I know that there's been a massive, how would I explain it? A massive breakthrough and transformation that you've gone through, that I've witnessed you into the person you are today. So tell us a little bit about how that transformation and breakthrough has been for you.
A long journey. It feels like it's been centuries that I've been going through, to be honest with you. It's up and down and sideways and just everywhere. And I don't think that there isn't one thing that I haven't uncovered about myself. Sometimes I get surprised. I'm like, oh, there's another little thing. And it's like a consistent development of who I used to be to who I've become now through just my experiences with a lot of different people, a lot of different coaches who have amazing abilities and amazing tools to be able to develop and just really make your life feel more fulfilled. And I think that's the greatest thing about this journey is that, yeah, there are moments where we've got to dive and look into the shadow side of ourselves, but on the other side of that is just that liberation and that freedom and the love. And every time you go into another shadow, you just come out the other side and there's more love and more happiness and more fulfillment that you actually get to experience. And I think that makes that hard work of looking at yourself so much greater, because on the other side there's just so much more that you get to experience. Yes, I hope that was your question.
Amazing. No, that was awesome. Thank you so much I love it. You're just in flow, so it's awesome. That is so cool. So obviously in your bio you did mention that you used to be an exotic dancer. Tell us a little bit about that and also how that has helped you with what you're doing right now in the world.
Oh, this is the first time, so you're very lucky that you're the first person to actually get all this information from me. It has helped me in so many different ways, in ways that when I was dancing, I didn't actually realize that was helping my life. And I think that's the beautiful thing, is that even though it feels hard in the moment or it feels like that, it was one of the greatest gifts that had ever been given to me, because not very many people get to experience it. It was almost like somebody had thrown me in the bin and said, here, work it out. And it was from from working out like where my boundaries were, where like I was willing to tolerate certain things in my life, how to hustle for money, like how to say no to grown men who are on drinking alcohol, and like it's just such a beautiful industry that you can learn so much from, about yourself, how to look at yourself, how to be with other beautiful girls in the industry who are naked in front of you and doing all crazy kinds of stuff. Like, it's just, I'm so grateful that I got to experience it, because it really changed me as a person. And it kind of brings out that inner wild girl, do you know what I mean? That wild one that wants to come out and be free and dance and play and have fun. And you don't even have to do it with alcohol. Like, a lot of the industry, yes, does have that side to it. And then, yes, it does have that side of drugs and alcohol and that kind of stuff. But, and I got caught up in that earlier on in my years of being in the industry. And that's what I'm talking about, where it was like I was thrown in the bin, and I kind of had to learn that that's not the life that I wanted to live. I didn't want to be taking drugs. I didn't want to be drinking alcohol every night. And I had to go through that experience to learn that that's not what I wanted, that I actually wanted to be able to have fun and have that freedom and that liberation without needing to do those things. And I think that's definitely what led me more on the path of coaching and looking at my shadow sides and that kind of stuff. But it was very interesting when I started to do that, how that had impacted, and how it showed me how I was already learning that even before I started doing that stuff, to the point where, you know, I just felt more comfortable being in my physical body, like being able to look at myself naked in the mirror, and to look at 20 other women or 50 other women that I'm working with that night who all have different bodies, like, and we're so comfortable with telling each other how we look and how we feel about ourselves. And we just have each other's back. Like, most of the girls in that industry really do have each other's back when shit hits the fan, or you just don't feel comfortable in your skin that night. Obviously, being a woman and going through your hormones and that time of the month, and it can be really crazy. Like, this industry is probably very crazy, and you don't know it until you stepped in it. Like, it's incredible, and I loved every moment of it. So even the bad side of it that I went down for a few years and got myself caught up into some really fucking crazy things. Sorry, I hope it's okay to swear.
No, be you. Be you.
I'm like, oh.
No, be you.
But I think it really brought me alive. It really tests you. It really tests your, like, okay, I'm not making money tonight. Like, what can I do, and how can I, and especially when I started getting into manifestation and really embodying who I was able to sit there and have these men be drawn to me and just give me money out of nowhere. And it was just so fucking beautiful. And I felt like that goddess, you know, that beautiful goddess inside who was like, wow, I really don't just have to do anything. Like, I can just be me, and I get to create this beautiful, like, life for myself. And just a magnetic attraction, right? It wasn't always like that, but there were moments and there were times and the ebbs and flows, depending on what I was going through in the moment. And I think that's just the beautiful journey of that internal growth, is the ebbs and flows that you go through. You have your ups, you have your downs, but there's more pleasure on the other side always, like, just so much more. Yeah.
Amazing. So good. And so you've got 2 beautiful children now, right? So what's it been like being a mum, going through that, of course, being in part of that industry, and then shifting out of that, and now in this place of, like, helping women to actually understand what pleasure really means and how they can have that?
As a mum? Do you mean, or just as a woman in general? Because
as a mum,
I think being a mom is really fucking hard, because as soon as you have a child, your whole entire identity shifts. So who you thought you were is not who you think you are after you're a mom. And I think that was the biggest thing that I really went through after becoming a mom to my daughter, was everything that I thought I had worked on started to creep up and come back to the surface. And it's what triggered my postnatal depression and that kind of stuff. And I ended up definitely diving further into myself and reaching out and working with one of the best coaches that we know, Regan Hillier, and that's how we met. And, you know, and that was just incredible. Like, it really saved my life, and I couldn't be any more grateful for it, because it showed me exactly what I needed and what I wanted in my life, and then just started to be able to harness all of the other abilities that I already had and implement them in my life to be able to be more present with my children, to feel more fulfilled within inside myself as a mom, to do my own healing around the shame and the guilt of being a mother and being an exotic dancer, and just all of that stuff. It's like these levels of just being able to be a greater mom, and that was the best thing that I possibly could have ever done for my children, because the more present I am with them, the greater level of attention that they get from me, and the greater level of love, you know, that they can receive from me, because I'm happy mom, they're happy children, right? And yeah, there are days where I'm not absolutely 100% happy, but, well, I am always happy, but I'm like, tell them that I'm processing something, do you know what I mean? And I have verbally explained myself as like, Mummy's just shifting and going through some stuff, right? And it creates this beautiful like space for us to be able to understand each other, so that we can learn to give each other space and try to understand each other as a child and as a mother, and like all that beautiful dynamic that really does happen. Yeah, and then on top of that is co-parenting.
right.
You know, and that wasn't always the case, but that only came this year, really stepped in this year, was co-parenting, and I found that very, very challenging, was to be on the same page, and who's paying for what, and just many different levels, and then like making sure that it was about the kids and not about our history, and very, 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 very interesting. But I feel like everything, so I feel like my dancing and all of that has really allowed me to become a greater mom, because I'm able to be in my body, to teach my daughter that she can be who she wants to be, and that she can be in her physical body, and she can look at herself naked and appreciate who she is, and be extravagant if she wants to be. And I think that's a very beautiful thing, and to teach her about boundaries and to say no to even her brother, you know, because I get that amazing ability to have two genders, that, you know, I get to teach her empowerment with her brother. And I think that's a really, really amazing privilege that I've been able to experience as well. Yeah.
So good. That's so amazing. And what are you doing right now? Like, what are some of the things that you're working with currently with clients?
Self-love, I think. I mean, I don't really like to call it self-love. I like to call it unconditional love for self, because it's a very similar thing, like when loving a child. Because when you unconditionally love something, you love it through all of it. You love it through the mess. You love it through the goodness. You love it through the the juiciness, whatever it is, like you just love it, right? And you've got to love it, because we're not all perfect, and we all fuck up, and we all, you know, do the wrong thing. We all do the great things as well. It's about learning to love both sides. It's not, and to learning to love, like, that we do all have a shadow and that we all do have a light, and being able to play in both fields, and owning yourself and owning the shit and owning the, well, I did fuck up, like, you know, and that kind of stuff is like, sorry, I forgot the question. I got on a tangent there.
No, it's totally okay. Just what you're working with clients. So you mentioned.
Oh yeah, so like owning themselves, and really just coming further and further into their bodies to be able to feel themselves, to really be present with themselves, to know what it feels like to be intimate with themselves, to know what it feels like to have a cosmic experience, and open up portals and stuff like that through their sexuality. But it takes time, and I think a lot of people expect things to happen like this, when it's like you've been layering upon layering upon layering your whole entire life of suppressing everything that you truly are, and you've got to now let go of all of that to allow that inner being to be everything she needs to be, that wild, free. I do work with men as well, so not just women, but because men have a lot of it too, and I notice with men it's a lot more heartache than women do. They seem to carry a lot more of their heart, and especially this came from a lot of my working in the industry too. A lot of men seem to they put masks over their faces to pretend that they're a certain way, and then they just want to open up and let their heart out, or they just want to be wild and free. But I think it's like everyone, we kind of all want to be wild and free and liberated and have the depths of pleasure and be able to experience love to the deepest places that we're floating off of the bed. And I really just wish that everyone could experience it. And it does come through understanding yourself, like really looking at yourself. And I think this is all the stuff that I work with, and I work with a lot of different things, from spirituality to like touching yourself and pleasuring yourself, to really just being present with who you are and accepting all of who you are, and then letting go of the stuff that's no longer serving you, so that you can just bring more of who you really are out to the surface and really live a life more fully of who you are, because we're all different. And it's amazing that we get to shine that out into the world. And once you start doing that, you can see how great and how amazing everyone else is, like, and how different we all are. And you start going, oh my God, that's so amazing. I can't believe you get to experience something like that. That's so great. Like, there's no jealousy anymore, and there's no envy to be better than anyone else. It's just, you start to see how amazing everyone else is just by being them, because you were able to let yourself free and come out, and to start being more present with yourself, and more intimate with who you are as a person. Yeah. So I think that's mostly what I do with everyone, but it takes time. It's that inner, like, yeah.
Amazing. So good. And what would you say would be, obviously everything we've spoken about, like what would you say to a woman out there who, or even a man who's watching this, like, or listening to this, what would you say to them about the first steps that they can start to actually fall back in love with themselves and have that unconditional love? What would be a few key things that they could start to implement now?
I think your first step is acceptance. So accepting where you're at, just to go, okay, even if I know the place, I know I've been there, I know it's like, well, my life just fucking sucks. Like, accept that, own that, and then go, okay, what can I do to change this? And just ask you, really sit there and ask yourself, because I think we limit ourselves because we haven't accepted where we're at in that moment, that the limitations are there because we always have the answer. And until you ask yourself, well, how can I change this? The answer never comes, because you limit yourself and you haven't accepted where you're at in this very now moment. So I think they're probably the main steps that I would take, and that I would recommend anyone taking, and then hiring a really fucking amazing coach who's going to help you get to the desired outcome that you actually want in your life, and who's going to sit there and hold your hand along the way and take you through the ebbs and flows, and to accept all of who you really are, the good and the bad, you know, and will love you along the way till you get to that amazing outcome that you actually wanted this whole entire time. So they're probably definitely the steps.
Amazing. Is there any rituals that you do like on a daily basis to help you, just in general? Like, what are some of the things that you do?
I used to do a lot of rituals, but because I have children, I found it very difficult to implement a ritual every single morning, every single night, because my children are up and down. I have them on specific days now, which is really amazing, because that means on those mornings that I don't have them, I get to actually sit there and be with myself. But I do a lot of breath work, but I do it throughout the day, especially when I have my kids. I breathe through a lot of stuff. So like if I'm being triggered by something, I'll breathe and I'll do a little breath work to get me through until I'm able to actually sit down and be present with myself, whether that's through meditation or it changes on a daily basis. It's not really, I think the only thing that I probably do is I either kind of like, it's kind of like an intention, but it's like setting a prayer to myself every day. Is I sit there in front of like my little shrine that I have set up and I just say a little prayer to myself. So I just set the intentions of love and joy and happiness and freedom and fulfillment in my life, I think, just every day. And yeah, I think that's probably the best thing. But out of a whole entire week when I don't have the kids, self-pleasure, 100% all the time. So,
amazing.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm not sure, obviously there are going to be different types of people watching or listening to this. When you say self-pleasure, and maybe some people may feel uncomfortable about talking about this kind of stuff, but I feel like as a woman, it's super important. Even a man, like if you're not allowing yourself to do that, what would be some tips as to how people can start to do that if they're not already?
It's hard to say because everyone's at different levels. So it all depends on where you're at. If you feel uncomfortable, like at some point I felt uncomfortable, and I felt uncomfortable when somebody used to say the word pussy to me, and I thought that was really like how could you say that? That's so provocative and blah, blah, blah. But it was just programming. Do you know what I mean? It was just the way that my program was running at the time, because I was actually shameful to want to even look at myself or touch myself or please myself. And the deepest desire a woman could ever want is pleasure. This is where your creativity lays, is in your pleasure. That's where your desire lays, is in your pleasure, right? To feel good, to feel that like juiciness inside your body, to feel amazing. So it really just depends on where that person is at in their life. Whether it means just giving yourself a nice breast massage, or even if you're scared to even touch yourself, just slightly just give your legs a rub, or, it doesn't have to be full on like masturbation. It can also be just being present with yourself. That can give you pleasure. And then you just move slowly and slowly out of your comfort zone and moving towards deeper levels of pleasure, which then from that place allows you to experience more pleasure in your life in other areas. Like, I never used to enjoy cooking. I fucking love cooking now. I love being with my kids and I cuddle them so much, and I'm just like, let me sing to you, let me kiss you. And like, I never used to really enjoy those moments. Like, just these little things that we as women, when you come into your body and you really start being able to feel yourself, and the more pleasure you bring to yourself in your own being, the more pleasure you actually get to experience on the outside, because you start to see that there's just so much more that you can do with your life. Like, I now buy things that feel good. Like, I just buy clothes that rub up against me, that feel good. Velvet is amazing for that, by the way. I think I'm going to deck my whole house out in velvet stuff soon, and you'll just see me rubbing all over everything with my velvet. I'll be like, oh. And furs, like, just fact fur, of course, but like, yeah. So it's just where you're at in your life. Yeah.
Amazing. So good. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I just want people to start getting a taste of, like, it's okay to talk about this stuff, and you know, the more we talk about it, it becomes normal, and the more it becomes normal, the more we can actually start implementing it as well, which
that's
really
exactly right. Yeah, it's so right though. Like, I think even though it triggers you, it could trigger you at start, go, oh, like, what does she mean? And I know I've had a few friends who, like, once I start getting comfortable with people, I start pushing their boundaries a little bit, where I'm like, I start being more sexual around them, and I'm like, ooh, like, and I kind of just, like, you know what I mean? So I kind of grasp into where they're at in their life, and I've triggered some of my friends before, and I'm sure that they look at me and they go, you need to stop masturbating. I'm like, no, girl, I'm not masturbating.
You need to masturbate more.
I'm having pleasure over here, and I'm triggering the fuck out of you. I'm sorry, but I'm having so much fun. Like, I just love it. It's amazing. And I get it, and I understand, because I know how it used to trigger me as well. But when you come over to the flip side, you're on cloud 9, like cloud 11, like majority of the time. So it's good. Yeah.
So good. And is there anything that you're specifically launching? Like, do you have a program, or is it like if someone's watching this and they want to reach out to you and start working with you, how do they do that?
So I'm working on so many different things at the moment. At the moment, I'm doing lots of one-on-one. That's probably the biggest thing right now. But I've got my website that I hope is launching very soon. I didn't realize the depths of, like, what actually goes into a website. I have an ebook coming out soon, which is really lovely, which you'll have, like, just the beginnings of being more intimate and present with yourself, and a little juicy thing at the end there. So, and everything else. So, and I've launched a podcast with one of my best friends. So that's
amazing. What's the podcast?
Fun. The Uncommon Yoni. She's one of the ones that I trigger all the time for being too sexual. So it'll be fun being on that podcast.
Amazing. And obviously I'll pop all your social media links in this as well. So if anyone wants to reach out to Shani, then you guys can just find her Facebook, Instagram, and then when her website's out. But yeah, if you want to work with her or talk to her more, reach out. Especially when it comes to that embodiment and really creating that beautiful relationship with self and others as well, because it starts with us, but it also is a ripple effect. That's exactly right. And I think we think that we always have to do for everyone else, and then we forget about ourselves. Yet it all starts with us. And that was the biggest lesson I learned as a mother, was to look after myself first so that I could show up for them. You know, give myself more pleasure and love during the days that
I then get to give more pleasure and love to them in their own way. Do you know what I mean? I get to be more present with them, and then it fires off in your relationships with your clients and your friends, and it's just amazing. Like, yeah, well, it's been really, really amazing. Yeah.
Oh, is there anything else that you feel is important to share? Is there anything else that you want to share, or anything that's coming up for you?
Not really, no.
Awesome. No, I feel like you've covered a lot of the stuff that I wanted to cover, so that's awesome.
You just got to start like somewhere. Like, we all just got to start somewhere, whether it's, you know, building a business or loving yourself. It's still the same thing. Or having a child, you just start somewhere, right? And then you just got to nurture it along the way and just keep going. And yeah, like it's just more fulfillment, and the more clarity you have and the more awareness that you have, the greater levels of being able to move through stuff that you are experiencing in your life, whether it be from self-love or the relationship with yourself to your lover to, you know, your business or whatever it may be.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Shani, for being on the show and through this series as well. It's been an honor to chat with you and just to hear more in-depth stuff around your story, and just want to acknowledge you for all the work that you do personally for yourself, but also for humanity and for the world as well.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here, and I'm so grateful that you've reached out to me.
You're welcome. And for anyone that is tuning in, thank you so much for watching, for listening. Make sure you like, comment, share to anyone who you think will benefit from listening to this amazing chat, and also don't forget to subscribe. Remember, you truly can live the life of your dreams. Bye for now.